Black goes to a8. A tricky move actually, because he's setting up a small trap. Hey guys, this is Andy from Noctie, and today we're gonna go through the weekly scenario of week 26 of 2025. And before we start, I just want to say a huge thanks for getting us 300 subscribers. Not too long ago, we reached 100 subscribers, so we're really happy that more people are finding their way to the channel. Whether you are Noctie user or not, we're here to learn and improve chess together. So let's dive into this week's position. This week's position features a piece-only checkmate, the Two-Bishop Checkmate. For many players, this is the first advanced endgame technique that they learn. And I remember when I started out playing chess, I was so proud when I finally mastered this method. In contrast to checkmating with two major pieces, or even mating with one rook, this situation requires a much more precise technique in order to succeed. To go over this method in detail, I'm going to start in the theme section, where we have created an interactive lesson on exactly this technique. Just head over to themes and then go to Noctie themes, and the collection is called Endgame Checkmates. So we call this method the diagonal staircase, and there are three principles for executing it. First, we need our bishops to work together, and the best way for them to do this is to control adjacent diagonals. So for example, in this case, as we see, by doing so, the bishops create a cage around the enemy king from which it cannot escape. And furthermore, we need to deliver checkmate in a corner. So we also need our king to help out as well. We need to use our king and push the enemy king first to the edge of the board and then drive it into one of the corners. And while doing this, we need to use the bishops and tighten the cage as we go. And thirdly, we need to put in some very effective waiting moves in order to both shrink in the cage and also to avoid stalemate situations. So in order to deliver checkmate successfully with two bishops, we have to keep all these three principles in mind. Let's take a look at how it might continue from here. So it's white to move, and the first move is to move forward the light squared bishop. And by doing so, as we see in the markings, the cage is shrinking, and black's king must retreat. He can go, for example, to d7, and now what do? We're bringing forward the other bishop. And just in two moves, we're shrinking the cage to a smaller one. Black must shuffle back and forth, and now we can bring in our king. And the best way in this case is to actually bring it around the bishops to the b5 square. So black can just shuffle back and forth with no other choice. And we continue our plan to bring forward our king. Black goes to c7, and now we've managed to relocate our king to b5. And from there, as we see from the blue circles, it controls some key squares, because now we can free up one of the bishops to further shrink in the cage. Black goes to d7, and now we make an important waiting move, bishop b5, because if you act too quickly, then the cage might break and black's king will escape. So here, black will have no choice but to go back to c7, and now we bring in the light squared bishop. So as we saw, we wanted the king to be on c7 when we brought our bishop to c6, otherwise the black king could have escaped. And now it's black to move, and the only squares are on the 8th rank. And here we simply move forwards with our own king to b6, and in just a few moves we've managed to force the black king to the 8th rank. And as we can see here, the black king is closest to the a8 square, so we will try to force it into that corner. It's black to move, and black will try to run in the opposite direction by going to d8. And here comes another important waiting move. We just go with the dark squared bishop and stay on the same diagonal, because now the black king must go backwards to c8, and now we can bring in the bishop again to shrink in the cage. Black has only one square, and that is to b8, and now we can use the light squared bishop to bring it further in. Alright, so now we are very close to the checkmate. Black goes to a8. So here we actually have a mate in 3. So please take a few seconds, pause the video and see if you can find it. Alright, which move does white play? I hope you didn't say bishop d6, right? Because that would be a stalemate. So instead, we put in another waiting move. We go with the light square bishop this time and stay on the same diagonal. And black has only one move, and that is king b8. And now we can use this diagonal staircase and bring it to the corner and then deliver checkmate. We check with the dark squared bishop, king a8 is the only move, and now finally we can deliver checkmate with the light squared bishop on e4. Alright, so this was the diagonal staircase method, as we like to call it. And now it's our turn to play against Noctie and see if we can implement it in action. Now it's our turn to play this against Noctie, and let's see if we can manage to win using the diagonal staircase method we just went through. And a quick note, in order to win, we have to successfully do this within 50 moves. Otherwise, the game would end in a draw. So here for the first move, it doesn't really matter. We just have to bring our pieces in. I'm gonna start with bringing up the king. I'm gonna go the king one more step. Here I'm gonna use the dark squared bishop and bring it up to b2. Alright, and now we can go up with the king once more. So it's very important to use the king actively in order to control squares from the enemy king. Let's see, what do we do here? From here, I think I'm gonna put my bishop here on d3. So I'm following the principle that I'm keeping them on adjacent diagonals. So here they control these squares and we have a cage around the black king. Alright, here I'll just go with the king to grab the opposition. And that's when the kings are opposite to each other. And now we can infiltrate with our king. And remember, our two bishops control these two diagonals, so the king can never pass it. And now we can bring in the light square bishop to tighten the cage. Alright, black goes there. And just to highlight, when we have these bishops on adjacent diagonals, it's important because black's king now can never escape. Alright, here I think I'm gonna grab the opposition again. And now go forwards with the other bishop. So step by step we are tightening the cage around it. Okay, so here black wants to escape to the a5 square, and how do we stop that? We can simply put our bishop here on b4 to shut it down. When the bishops are next to each other, it's really powerful because here they control all these squares around it. So what do we do here? I think we can just go forwards again and repeat the process. So here we are pushing the king slowly but steadily to the edge of the board. And finally, the king is now at the edge of the board. And now we want to use our king to try to push it into one of the corners. Remember, checkmate must be delivered in a corner. And here we are closest to the a8 corner, so I'm going to try to drive the king there. And here black will try to escape this way, so I'm going to shut it down by playing bishop e7. Alright, very nice. And here I'm going to go over to b6, grab the opposition. Okay, interesting. Black goes to a8. A tricky move actually, because he's setting up a small trap. Here we have to be very careful and not play bishop d6, because from d6 there will be a stalemate. Black will have no squares to move to. And here we remember the important concept of the waiting moves. We want to have the tempo right, so when we play moves that they are check and they are forcing moves that slowly but steadily force the black into a checkmate. So here I'm going to simply go with the light square bishop, and black still has the b8 square. That's important. We always want to make sure that they have one escape square. And now it's time for us to deliver the diagonal staircase checkmate. So let's see for a second here. Our light square bishop here on d7, it controls this important diagonal from h3 to c8. And now we can use the dark square bishop and bring it to d6, forcing a check. Black has only got one move, and that is to go to a8 in the corner. And now, when our dark squared bishop is controlling b8, it's very important that it's our move, because from here we can use the light squared bishop to finally deliver checkmate on c6. Alright, let's see also how many moves we played. So we played 19 moves, that's quite decent. I think there's some theory that with two bishops, regardless of the starting position, you could always checkmate within a number of moves. I can't recall exactly that move number. Perhaps if some of you know, you are welcome to put it in the comments. But with other words, with two bishops, there's always a forced checkmate within a number of moves, regardless of the starting position. Alright, so now we know how to deliver checkmate with two bishops using the diagonal staircase method. If you want to review this technique, feel free to check out our interactive lesson in Noctie, where we have created a tutorial with the theory, as well as some important practice position where you can try this out and play until you have mastered it. I'll put the link down in the description. And as always, thank you so much for watching and happy playing. See you next week. Bye bye.